All right, let's actually do some programming. Let's take this branch where we're using accepts nested attributes for, and let's change it to use a form object. And then once we're done with that, we'll discuss the pros and cons. Now, a refactoring like this is a bit tricky because it's going to touch just about every layer of our application. In those cases, I usually like to start in the view and work outside in, moving deeper into the stack. So let's do that. As usual, I'm going to just write code I wish I had. So rather than this form being concerned with users and teams, let's just say this form is concerned with signups. Also, let's make it flat. And rather than this just being about name, let's make it team name. I'm going to focus my specs and just run this one for now. And here's our first error. We're getting that error because we're setting @user here, and @user is gone. Now it's @signup. And we don't want to build a user now. Instead, we want to build a signup. Let's rerun. Fair enough. Signup is not a thing yet. Okay, here's a good error. Undefined method model name on signup, and it's happening in the first line of our view. Right here. The issue is, if you want to pass things into form for, there's a certain interface that you must adhere to. One of the things you need to implement is model name, but rather than implement that manually, I'm going to use a handy mixin that we get. This contains everything I need to pass signup into form for. So let's rerun. This error is a touch confusing. It's still in that first line of the form, and we're trying to call signups path. This is something form for does. I could go create a signups path, but instead I'm just going to reuse the existing user's path. And rerun. Good, we've now made it further down the form. Notice we're now on line 7 of the form, and the issue is that we're trying to call the email method, and it doesn't exist on signup yet, but we can fix that. Rerun. Same issue, but now team name. This error is because our label has changed from name to team name, so I'm going to update the spec. Now our controller is complaining because we're not passing in a user, and we said it was required in the parameters. And now we have an actual test failure where we should have created a team, but we didn't. This makes sense because if you look at our create action, we are still only building and saving a user. So let's reference signup again here. And we'll rerun. Fair enough. We built signup, so it doesn't have a save method yet. And we're back to a real test failure. This time we're not creating a user either. Notice that we're failing on line 21, which is right here. So we're successfully submitting, but we're not creating these objects. However, our signup object now knows about email and team name, so it has everything it needs to create those objects. Now we're creating our user, but not our team. This is one instance where Ruby could help us out by being a little less permissive. The issue is that team name, the method that I'm calling right here, is returning nil. That would be nice to know in a slightly more obvious way, but we know how to fix this. We need to update the parameters in our controller. Cool, and we're green. But only for one spec. If I go look at our other spec where we talk about validation errors, and I run it, you'll see that this create bang line I added to our signup is raising an exception. But we don't want to raise an exception. We want to instead show the validation error to the user. Let's do that now. Hopping back to our signup. The other handy thing this active model module gives us, say that 3 times fast, is validations. So I can call this validHuh method, and it will run validations on signup as an object. Let's add those. And now if I rerun that spec, we're green. Again, because we included this module, Rails knows how to display the errors from the signup back in the form. Okay, so that refactoring ranged all over the place. We bounced around a lot. So let's look at a consolidated diff real quick just to review what we did. Starting off in the controller, we swapped from